Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Dana Haggard, Professor of Management and curator of this video on personality. I hope you find the information I've collected here to be useful and interesting. Let's get started. Most people are familiar with the term personality, although they might not have thought much about an exact definition of it. Here are 3 definitions that I think, taken together, do a really good job of explaining the concept. The first definition is from Merriam-Webster, and they define personality as the totality of an individual's behavior and emotional characteristics. I like this definition because it signals the widely encompassing nature of personality and that the personality is seen as the whole. It acknowledges also both the behavioral and the emotional characteristics that contribute to that totality. The next definition is from the American Psychological Association's dictionary. As you might expect, this definition is a bit more descriptive. The APA defines personality as the enduring configuration of characteristics and behavior that comprise an individual's unique adjustment to life, including major traits, interests, drives, values, self-concept, abilities, and emotional patterns. The 2 important additions to the definition of personality here are the fact that personality is seen as enduring, meaning it lasts for a long time, and that personality is what makes people unique. I also like that it incorporates more than just behavior and emotions and includes things like values and self-concept. The last definition is from businessdictionary.com. They describe personality as the relatively stable, consistent, and distinctive set of mental and emotional characteristics a person exhibits when alone or when interacting with people and his or her external environment. This definition shares the same themes as the earlier 2, but also adds the idea that behavior is consistent and the idea that people's personality is expressed when people are alone as well as when they are interacting with other people. We have already touched on some of the items listed in the second definition, such as values, self-concept, and emotional issues such as emotional intelligence. Therefore, in the rest of this video, we are going to talk about major behavioral and emotional characteristics and their constellations or configurations that can be used to describe a person's personality. Why is personality important? Personality affects every aspect of our lives. It is an important part of our identity and how we see ourselves as people. Our personalities can affect our relationships, not only those we live with, but with everyone we come into contact with, either in person or virtually. Personality also certainly influences our willingness and desire to work in teams. Our personality includes our values, emotions, and preferences, and hence can affect the choices that we make. Our personality can also affect our health. You have probably heard about type A personalities before, and maybe you consider yourself to be type A. Type A personalities are known for being successful, as well as for their time urgency and impatience, being aggressive, competitive, dominating, and having a strong need for achievement. This personality type has been associated with hypertension, heart disease, job stress, and social isolation. To learn more about type A, B, and D personalities, see the links in the Sources and Additional Resources section of this video. Certain personality types and characteristics can affect our success or achievement in both general and specific circumstances. For example, there is quite a bit of research on conscientiousness, a personality trait we will cover in this video, that shows it is very strongly associated with performance regardless of the job. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of scholars who do research on personality, and there are probably at least 100 different individual characteristics that can make up one's personality. However, we are going to narrow our discussion down to 2 broad models of personality, the Big Five and the Hexaco model. Both of these models use broad dimensions within which more narrow personality characteristics can be nested. The Big Five is probably the most studied model of personality out there, and it has been shown to have cross-cultural validity. By that I mean that these 5 personality traits have been identified in almost every major culture, and by multiple researchers, although they may label each trait slightly differently. We will start with the Big Five and my guess is that most of you will have heard of these characteristics before, and you have probably taken a personality assessment related to them. Openness to experience is pretty much what it sounds like. People who are high on openness to experience enjoy new activities, ideas, and new cultures. Those that are closed to experience prefer the predictable and the familiar. This might sound like you've heard this before, and that's because it is related to the novelty dimension of tolerance for ambiguity. Research shows that people tend to become more closed to experience as they age. Being conscientious means one is dependable, responsible, and concerned with doing what is right. Highly conscientious people are aware of their duties to others and are concerned with how their behavior affects other people. They also tend to be detail as well as goal-oriented. Those low on conscientiousness tend to be oblivious to their impact on others, less concerned with duties and details, and more impulsive in their behavior. Extroversion has to do with where one gets one's energy from. Extroverts are energized through social engagement and thrive when interacting with others. When they feel they need to relax and recharge, they seek out other people. They tend to be seen as energetic and outgoing. On the other end of the spectrum, we have introverts. Introverts recharge by seeking time to themselves. They tend to be quiet and deliberate and find dealing with large groups stressful. An important point here is not all introverts are shy or fear being the center of attention. Extroversion and introversion are probably two concepts most misunderstood by the average person, and that is to the detriment of both introverts and extroverts. Agreeableness has to do with how good-natured, friendly, and cooperative a person is. Agreeable people are concerned about the feelings of others and are uncomfortable with conflict. Disagreeable people, on the other hand, have little concern about others' feelings or others' opinions of them. Disagreeable people can be seen as argumentative and unpleasant to be around. Neuroticism has to do with emotional stability. Persons high on neuroticism are often highly emotional and vulnerable to psychological distress. They tend to worry and overthink things. Those who are low on neuroticism are well-adjusted emotionally and can cope better with the unexpected. They have better perspective on the nature and consequences of stressful situations and tend to be calmer in the face of those. I'm guessing that most of you could provide an example for each of the different character traits based on the people in your life. You might even have recognized yourself in one of these descriptions. Of all these traits, the one with the most consistent link to performance, regardless of the job, as I said earlier, is conscientiousness. The others have links, but they tend to be more job-specific. For example, extroversion and sales jobs. The Hexaco model of personality shares many similarities to that of the Big Five. However, although they use the same terminology for extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, open to experience, and emotionality is reminiscent of neuroticism, the conceptualizations across models are not completely identical. However, the nuances are probably of more interest to academic researchers than the average manager, so we won't dwell on those. The most noteworthy difference between the Big Five and the Hexaco model is the Hexaco's addition of the honesty-humility dimension. According to the Hexaco Personality Inventory website, see the sources links at the end of the video, those who are high on honesty-humility avoid manipulating others for personal gain, feel little temptation to break rules, are uninterested in lavish wealth and luxuries, and feel no special entitlement to elevated social status. Conversely, persons with low scores on this scale will flatter others to get what they want, are inclined to break rules for personal profit, are motivated by personal gain, and feel a strong sense of self-importance. I think most people would agree that honesty and humility are an important dimension of one's personality and of one's character, and are of definite interest to people and managers who seek to maintain an ethical workplace. If you search on your favorite search engine for personality test or personality measurement, you're going to get tons of results. Here are a few, though, that I think are probably worthwhile and you should take a look at some point. There's the Type A personality, and also you'll see one of the links will take you not only to test the Type A, but the Type B. Then there's the Hexaco model, as well as the Big Five and other personality inventories. While I highly recommend taking a few of these, there are so many, you should probably be careful that you don't lose track of time in taking these and then be distracted from other things that you could be doing. This is usually the point in the lecture when I talk about improving with a particular skill. However, I had a hard time deciding what to label this section of the video because what we are talking about is personality, and some might be offended at the thought that their personality needed improving, or indeed that personality can or should be changed. However, there may be aspects of your personality that you wish you could change, and since one of the critical aspects of personality is that it includes patterns of behavior, it is possible. You won't become a completely different person, and hopefully you don't want to be. Modifying aspects of your personality does not mean that you need to suddenly become unrecognizable to those around you, or that you should betray yourself in some way. But acknowledging that your behaviors might need to be altered in some circumstances so that you can become more effective shows self-awareness. Here are some suggested steps if you are interested in a little personality modification. First, start by taking a few personality inventories to establish a profile for yourself. I recommend sticking to measures that have been thoroughly researched. Next, look at the behaviors or attitudes you want to change. What are the things that you could do to work on them? Do you lack an interest in detail? Ask yourself or someone you work with why the details are important whenever you're presented with a new project. Be sincere and polite when asking. Do you find yourself always ready for an argument? Ask yourself what you get out of the argument, and is it worth the strain the argument might put on your relationships with the other person? Do you find you tend to ignore people who are quiet, thinking that if they had something to say, they would say it? Maybe you should make an effort to ask others for their opinions, or pledge to hold your questions or comments until at least 2 other people have contributed. Ask a friend, coworker, or acquaintance to describe your personality and ask them for examples of your behavior that led them to that description. Acknowledge that change will require some effort and persistence. Desired changes won't happen overnight. Then last, set a SMART goal, make a plan to achieve it, and then tell someone about it. Before we wrap things up, I want to remind students that being aware of your personality and the personality of others can help improve your understanding of their behavior and consequently your relationship. And now some questions for self-reflection. Which personality characteristic do you value most in yourself? What about in others? How does your personality influence the way you do your job? How might your personality influence your leadership style? Do the characteristics of your job line up with your personality? Do you choose to be around people of similar or different personalities than your own? And have you ever had a personality conflict with another person? What was the issue? That wraps up this video on personality. I hope you found the information beneficial. If you have any questions about concepts covered in this lecture, please post them to the Student Questions discussion board in Blackboard. Chances are, if you have a question, someone else has that question too. If you're intellectually curious and would like to learn more about personality, please stay tuned for the sources and additional resources for this video. Thanks for watching.